The Patriotic Front, or PF, has intensified its criticism of the ruling United Party for National Development, or UPND, with senior figures such as Given Lubinda asserting that widespread corruption under the current administration will lead to its electoral defeat in 2026. This sentiment echoes growing frustration among opposition leaders who argue that the promises made by President Hakainde Hichilema and his party have not materialized, leaving Zambians disillusioned and economically strained. Lubinda's remarks, delivered during a recent political rally, reflect a broader narrative within PF circles that positions the UPND as having failed to deliver on its reformist agenda, particularly in areas of governance, transparency, and economic recovery. Critics of the UPND government point to a series of challenges that have plagued the administration since its rise to power in 2021. Among the most cited issues are the rising cost of living, persistent unemployment, and the perceived erosion of democratic space. The opposition claims that despite the UPND's initial commitment to fiscal discipline and anti-corruption measures, the reality on the ground suggests otherwise. Fuel prices remain high, basic commodities such as mealie meal are increasingly unaffordable, and the Zambian kwacha continues to fluctuate unpredictably. These economic pressures have fueled public dissatisfaction, which the PF believes will translate into a decisive vote against the UPND in the next general elections. Lubinda and other PF strategists argue that the UPND's governance model has failed to address systemic inefficiencies and has instead perpetuated a cycle of elite enrichment and bureaucratic opacity. They cite instances of alleged mismanagement in public procurement, questionable foreign travel expenditures, and a lack of accountability in key ministries. According to PF spokespersons, these failures have eroded public trust and created fertile ground for political realignment. The opposition is now calling for a united front among alternative parties to present a single presidential candidate in 2026, aiming to consolidate the anti-UPND vote and restore what they describe as people-centered leadership. While the UPND maintains that its policies are geared toward long-term structural reform, opposition figures remain unconvinced. They argue that the government's reliance on technocratic solutions, such as the 10-point economic plan and digital governance tools, has not yielded tangible benefits for ordinary citizens. Instead, they claim that these strategies have become symbolic gestures, disconnected from the lived realities of Zambians. The PF has seized on this disconnect, positioning itself as the voice of the marginalized and the advocate for grassroots concerns. Lubinda's assertion that the UPND is on its way out reflects this strategic framing, which seeks to capitalize on public frustration and present the PF as a viable alternative. Political analysts note that while the PF's rhetoric is gaining traction, the opposition must also contend with its own legacy. The party was voted out in 2021 amid similar accusations of corruption and authoritarianism. For the PF to regain credibility, it must demonstrate a clear break from past practices and articulate a coherent vision for national renewal. This includes addressing internal divisions, presenting policy alternatives, and engaging in constructive dialogue with civil society. Lubinda's statement, therefore, serves not only as a critique of the UPND, but also as a rallying cry for PF reform and strategic repositioning. As Zambia approaches the 2026 elections, the political landscape remains fluid. The electorate is increasingly vocal, demanding accountability, transparency, and inclusive development. Whether the PF can harness this momentum and translate it into electoral success will depend on its ability to move beyond rhetoric and offer substantive solutions. Lubinda's warning about rampant corruption may resonate with voters, but it must be backed by credible leadership and a commitment to democratic principles. In the coming months, both the ruling party and the opposition will face mounting pressure to prove their worth, not just through speeches, but through action that reflects the aspirations of the Zambian people.